Hi, I'm Jelyn, a medical student from Universiti Malaya, and this is Lepas Sekolah.
Hi, Jelyn. May you please introduce yourself and tell us about your education journey thus far?
Hi, so I'm currently 23 years old this year, and I'm currently a fourth year medical student from Universiti Malaya. Prior to that, I was from Catholic High School, and then I ended up in Pahang Matriculation College. Then afterwards, only I came back into Universiti Malaya.
You scored 11 A's for SPM. Do you mind telling us what subjects you took and how did you study for SPM?
So I took pure science subjects, which is biology, chemistry, and physics, and then I also took extra subjects, which is Chinese and also accounts. Yeah, so I came with an accounting subject, but I didn't end up in accounting, so it's okay.
Why did you choose to take accounting?
I think because they told us that it was quite easy to score A. Like that was that was the legit truth of what I got it. I also took economics, but then I scored really badly in economics, so I dropped that subject.
Did you have a study routine?
Back then, honestly, when I was in secondary school, my results were not that great. So I remember I was the first batch that actually had to go through like COVID-19, and then before that, my forecast results was only like 1 A out of 11 A's. So I know that I was really cooked at that time. But then I think COVID came and then it kind of saved me. So I had a lot of time at home and I couldn't do a lot of things. Therefore, I started studying, and I think that's how and then it keep delaying, right? My SPN keep delaying, and then eventually I just managed to like keep up and got 11 A's from there. But I would pretty much say that I wasn't the kind of like full scorer, like getting amazing grades back then. I was really the kind of person that like barely passes the exams, getting an average score of around like 60 to 65.
Was your method of studying a lot of reading or was it a lot of doing past year questions?
I feel like at that time I was quite lost, so I was pretty grateful because I still went to tuition classes in secondary, and I think my teachers were the one who guided me towards like how am I supposed to tackle certain questions. Because like mathematics, I'm supposed to like do more past year questions and practice questions, but for like sejarah, I have to like face the music and kind of just study and memorize it.
Did you already know back when you were in Catholic high school that you wanted to become a doctor?
No, initially I wanted to become a lawyer. Yeah, and then afterwards I wanted to become a dentist. But then I realized that if the fact that I wanted to become a dentist, because I wasn't so confident with my own grades, so therefore I was like thinking to myself. Back then I had this delusion mindset that if I'm not good enough to become a doctor, might as well I just take a step back and become a dentist. Was what I thought about, which was definitely a myth because I feel like dental school is also equally as hard as medicine. And then afterwards I eventually got 11 A's, and then I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just pursue my dreams of like going into medicine because back then I always had something like doing medicine in the back of my head, but I didn't try to have the courage to like pursue it because I was a bit scared, like maybe could I even go through medical school kind of thing. Yeah, but then eventually I just got through it.
Jelyn, upon graduating high school, you went to Pahang Matriculation College. Uh, why did you choose to do matriculation?
Okay, it wasn't a choice. I initially already signed up for Masa Foundation in Science. So I was there for 2 months, already started my foundation there. Because I remember I actually applied matriculation because I was kiasu. So my friends all applied and I was like, I don't know what is this, but I'm going to apply as well. And then eventually, because I was consulting one of my father's friend who was a doctor, and he was like, oh, if you get into metrics, just get into metrics because you get more chances to get into public universities such as when you do get the chance to go into matriculation. I think that was how I got the offer, surprisingly, and then I just went to matriculation.
You were born and raised in KL your whole life. How was it then going to Pahang for your studies?
It was horrible. I would say because I was purely a city girl, so I wasn't expecting Pahang to look like whatever the opposite of a city is. So I went there, and then because it was COVID-19, we were not even allowed to like walk around or stroll around Pahang. We were only locked technically, like imprisoned in the matriculation college itself. So we have to eat everything that's available there, just live there and just stuck there. And then we have to just be there for like 3 months without going out, without going back home because we are not allowed to due to COVID.
On the subject of matriculation, how intense was the academic program?
I would say compared to like IGCSE or A levels, it's pretty much easier. But I would say it definitely also requires certain effort to like study and then to just get your way through it. Like definitely it requires effort, but I don't think it requires you to be like hardcore, like grinding from every day for 10 hours straight away just to get the results. Yeah.
Apart from having to leave Kuala Lumpur, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make in matriculation?
I think it's the fact that because back then in Kuala Lumpur, I used to stay alone. I used to own my own room. But when I go to matriculation, I'm supposed to share a room with another three people. So like each of us takes a corner space, and I think it's pretty hard because I was roommates with people of a different race. Therefore, we had to have a lot of tolerance level and be like, oh, you need to wake up at 6 a.m. to pray, and then like, oh, okay, but maybe I'll need to sleep at 1 p.m. because I'm grinding. So I think that was the part, but it really allowed me to have a better understanding of the race itself as well, and we had more tolerance. So I definitely had actually a really good relationship with my ex roommates, and we are still in contact until now.
For students who want to pursue a medical degree in Malaysia, would you say matriculation is a good pathway?
I would say if you want to enter government university, then definitely it will be the best pathway. As much as you want to say that it's fair, but definitely I feel like matriculation are still more prioritized compared to other universities foundations such as maybe like STPM or A levels. Like I feel like matriculations are much more prioritized in that context, but maybe it will change over the years. I feel like the best pathway will definitely it's either you go into matriculation and then you apply through UPU to enter government universities, or you can directly go into their foundation program, such as in UM they have a foundation program called PASUM, and then in UKM they have a foundation program called Asasi Pinta. So if you want to directly enter the certain government university itself, you can just directly apply to their foundation and see if you get in.
Why did you decide to do medicine at University Malaya specifically?
I think the main point when I thought about actually entering University Malaya was when I got the offer to get into matriculation. Because when I got the offer, I'm like, okay, I'm secured into University Malaya as long as I don't fuck this up. Yeah. Oh my god, can I say that? Yeah, it's like as long as I don't fuck up my matriculation results, then I'm going to enter University Malaya. It was kind of like what I thought about it. So I think it was then on that only I started to be like, okay, let's aim for University Malaya.
What does it really take for someone to be accepted into the medicine course in University Malaya?
It definitely takes a lot, but I would say the first thing is you actually start directly from SPM. So you have to already have like very good SPM results. You cannot afford to have any C's, and then you have to have good core curriculum as well. I think that was one of the main reasons why I even got into matriculation, because I definitely don't have like the really really best. I don't have 11 A's straight A plus, but I definitely have 11 A's. But my results compared to other people that had straight A plus definitely is not the best. But I feel like I managed to get into matriculation compared to those people is because I was quite active in core curriculum. So I definitely think that core curriculum takes a very important role. And then back in matriculation, we are also required to take a CGPA of more than 3.8. I got a 4.0, and then we also are required to take MUET, like MUET or IELTS. But I think back then with matriculation, we are required to only take MUET. So then you have to get a MUET of like minimum band 4.0. And then you have to go and pray that you get the interview slot and then shine through the interview. Then once you nail through the interview, and then you have to get another MCAT. Sorry, it's a lot. You have to sit for an examination called MCAT, but you just have to pass that examination, and then you just sit for the interview itself. So the main issue whether that determines whether you can get into University Malaya is depending on your performance during the interview itself.
So you have to go through all of these processes, and there's a possibility of elimination at each stage.
Yes, you can kind of say so. I would say that the results in the beginning for like your SPM and also for your matriculation kind of just sets the bar whereby they accumulate a pool of people together, and then how do they pick from this pool of people who actually gets in is based on your performance on your interview itself.
How did you prepare for your University Malaya application process?
I think the most important thing that people don't know about applying to MBBS course is that you have to take the MCAT examination, because you have to pay it yourself and you have to register yourself, and nobody is going to be there to guide you. So I think that that's one of the very important things. Initially during my generation it was called BMAT, but then currently they changed it to MCAT. Yeah, but that is a compulsory thing, because if you don't take that, then sadly you just cannot enter MBBS. Yeah.
What's the grading system like for MCAT?
Because I took BMAT, so I'm actually not sure about that. But yeah, you just have to pass the exam. Like they don't care about how good your results are, because there is definitely a grade towards it. But what we're aiming in Malaysia context, from what I've asked the past interviewers, is that as long as you're within the bell curve, the average bell curve, then you're safe to go.
Jelyn, may you recall what your interview was like?
For interview, it was called multiple mini interviews. So we have 4 sessions, and then you have to rotate the session twice. So it's kind of like you're going through 2 circuits together, and then there are a total of 8 questions. Each question is around 5 minutes, but they won't ask you like, why do you want to study medicine? What is your strength? They don't ask you these questions. More of it, they ask you kind of like kebat and like high critical thinking questions, such as, I still remember all the question because it was pretty interesting. They kind of like put out a lot of flashcards, and all the flashcards had like flashlights, torch, matchsticks, and all of these. And then they were like, what are the 5 items that you will bring to a campsite? Yeah, and then you kind of have to just pick it out and then reason you. So I think that it's kind of like it's not exactly related to the medical school interview, but they kind of just want to see how your brain works.
Was it a group or individual interview?
No, it's like a one-to-one interview. So you will be dealt with one interviewer, and then for 5 minutes, and then after 5 minutes, they will ring a bell, and then you switch, and then you go to the next station, and it will be a different thing. But I think that the questions are quite interesting because for itself, the questions will be like, should we legalize euthanasia in Malaysia, or should we legalize abortion in Malaysia, or should we legalize the use of marijuana in Malaysia? Yeah, I think these were the questions that were also being asked. So it was quite interesting because you have to prepare beforehand, and you can't just go in and just say whatever you want. Yeah.
Looking back on the application process, if someone were to come to you now and ask, I want to get into University Malaya, what would your advice be?
I would probably ask them, do you really want to get in because you like medicine? Or whether is it because you just like the ego boost, like coming from, oh my god, I entered medicine, like so slay, I'm a future doctor in the top number one medical school in Malaysia kind of thing. Because I feel like that occurs a lot in medical students as well. Therefore, I really think that you really got to think through it, whether do you want to sit with the process and then get advices from seniors, whether is this the pathway that you really want, how medical school is genuinely like raw, and think about it again. And then maybe I think that it's very important to get support from your family members as well, because I came from a family that doesn't have any doctors. So I was actually kind of like the first doctor, quote unquote, in the family entering medical school. And it required a lot of support and like understanding as well, because a lot of my family members come from business. So when they come from business, they kind of don't understand like why would you want to put yourself through the pain and through the hell into medical school compared to just going into business industry and starting up your own business.
How different is the reality of medical school from your expectations?
I would say I did have a vision that was in pair with the direction that I was thinking about, but the actual medical school was definitely worse in experiences, because I definitely thought about it like, okay, medical school, I have to devote more time compared to other courses to be studying and also revising my knowledge. But I didn't expect that we don't even have a lot of study breaks. We don't have semester breaks. So in one whole year itself, we only have 1 month break. And the 1 month is split into 1 weeks. So we only have like the max of a 1 week break, and then we're back into school. And then when other people are having semester breaks, they're going on holidays, we're just here grinding in clinical years and like attending lectures. So I think that that was the part that I didn't expect. And then the second part was that I kind of know that we have a lot of exams, and exams are intense before entering medical school. But once I entered medical school, only then I realized that they don't even prepare study breaks for us. So you just kind of like go to your class, and then you have classes in the morning, and then suddenly in the afternoon you already have your exams. So we have to prepare way before, because you kind of don't have too much time to like fully devote yourself into like preparing for the examination.
What is the normal day in the life of a University Malaya medical student?
I would say it depends whether you're preclinical and clinical. So preclinical is the first 2 years, and then clinical is from third year onwards all the way to final year, which is fifth year. So in preclinical years, I think your schedule is practically fixed. It's like an 8 to 5. So you have 8 a.m. lectures, and then back to back. You probably have an hour break for lunch, and then you continue your lectures from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. But of course, it also depends on the doctor's availability. Some days it wouldn't be that intense. Maybe you just have a lecture from 8 to 11, and then you have like 2 hour breaks, and then you continue from 2 to 5. But otherwise, most of the time, it's just lectures from 8 to 5. For clinical students, the schedule really depends on the doctors, which I would say it's a good thing, but also a bad thing at the same time, because it's too flexible. So you kind of don't know what to expect. So I will go throughout my day like on Monday, and then I will not know what to expect on a Wednesday or a Thursday. Like my schedule will probably be empty, but on the Wednesday morning, suddenly it'll be packed with classes and like clinical briefings. But I feel like clinical year for us in medicine, it's more about self-directed learning. So it's up to us whether do you want to wake up at 8 a.m. to clock the patient before your classes, or do you want to clock after, or do you want to sacrifice your lunch breaks to like maybe read up a few cases before the class itself.
It seems that medicine is academically and physically demanding. How did you ensure that you did not burn out?
I think I prevented burnouts by admitting and accepting that burnouts will happen. So I would say that I'm not the kind of person who is like anti burns out, and I think that burnouts really do happen a lot often. I think the most important thing that I was trying to deal with is just finding what you like. I think that's the hard part about medicine, is that you're trying to pursue yourself and like trying to tell yourself like it's okay. I chose this pathway myself. I got to deal with whatever I chose, kind of thing. And then it's really important to have a support system. I think that I kind of like go through my burnout quite easier compared to maybe other people who don't have that much friends, because to have a big support system is very important, and then they kind of like help you throughout the manner.
What part of medical school has been the most demanding and most difficult so far?
I would say it's the exams part, especially in clinical years. you kind of don't have an exact scope. So if, for example, if I'm in orthopedics posting, you can have anything under the roof. Like you can have fractures, you can have osteoporosis, you can have rheumatoid arthritis coming into the patient. And then when your exam comes, you kind of don't know what to expect. And it's kind of like opening a blind box. So you just kind of open the curtains and see what patient you're getting. And I think that's the really hard part, because you kind of acknowledge that you could never prepare 100% for all the exams, because there will always be something that you don't know. Sadly and unluckily, if you are unfortunate enough, you probably get a case that you're not really familiar with, and that kind of like cause you to fail your exams.
Considering that you've had 4 years in medical school, do you think you made the right choice?
I think it's pretty satisfying overall. Okay, there are definitely setbacks that I question my life decisions, but because I really know, before I step foot into medical school, I kind of really know myself that, you know what, I'm going to take this pathway, like not turning back, because I like medical school. Actually, I like the knowledge in general. I think that was one of the most important things that made me to feel like, even though life is tough and horrible, but I will still continue my journey.
Do you mind explaining the pathway from the moment that you enter medical school until you become a doctor?
So the pathway is you will take a 5 year degree course in whether it's MBBS or MD, because in UCAM it's like MD. And then after the 5 years, you're going to wait to get a placement for housemanship. So housemanship will range for around 2 to 3 years, it depending on yourself, because you may get delayed or you may fail a posting, so therefore you may be extended for another few months. Therefore, it goes up to 3 years, and then afterwards you have another 2 years of permanent compulsory services. So after you finish your compulsory services, only then you kind of like officially get a certificate to practice, whether you want to become a GP or whether you want to go into the private sector or not. And then afterwards, only you can think about specialization, whether do you want to specialize. So the average specialization program in Malaysia ranges from around 2 years to 4 years. But most of the time, it's around 4 years. And then during that moment of time, you have to like work as a master student, like in any of the hospitals under that profession itself. And then afterwards, you have to still practice another 2 to 4 years. Only then you officially become a specialist.
Has there ever been any ethical dilemmas that you had to go through?
I think there are definitely a lot of the ethical dilemmas, and I think there was one point, because the most ethical dilemmas part are the parts that I see in ops and gynae, because of how they have a lot of law issues and like a lot of cases, like how when a woman comes and then they bleed, like massively bleeding non-stop, they tried every way they can to resuscitate the patient but couldn't, and then they have to have one decision made is to do a hysterectomy to kind of like remove the patient's uterus because they are bleeding non-stop. So this was like the kind of a last resort thing. Issues when you cannot control whether the patient bleeds or not. So sadly and unfortunately, if this happens, like, and then it's really the last resort already, they attempted everything they could and then they kind of like removed it. So when the patient wakes up and then they realize that their uterus is gone, it's kind of like something that they couldn't accept. And like some people, they couldn't understand why would you end up doing that thing as a doctor. So therefore you will end up in a law case. Or I think there are also a lot of issues and instances whereby there are a lot of patients that will say that you do not resuscitate them, and then some doctors, maybe they do not get the hint or something like that, but then they resuscitate. I do see that sometimes on the news. Fortunately, I do not see that in the hospital itself. I am aware that these kind of incidents do happen.
Do you have an idea of what field you would like to specialize in or what the future looks like for you?
Yeah, and then initially in pre-clinical year, I was already thinking of doing emergency medicine. And after clinical year and after going through my emergency department posting, I do feel like I'm still interested in emergency, because I like the adrenaline rush. I do feel like I do have a certain ADHD trait. So it's very suitable for me to like just walk around, move around, and go from patient to patient. I realized that I don't like the kind of follow-up cases like see you in 3 weeks in the clinic, see you in another 2 weeks, see you in 6 months. I realized I don't like to follow up that much about patients. I like to just be quick, look at the patient, save their life, and then refer. And I realized that that's kind of like the trait that an emergency physician requires. Therefore, that's why I'm there. And I kind of think about becoming an emergency physician.
How accurate are television shows like House MD or Grey's Anatomy to real life medicine?
The house and also Grey Anatomy is actually pretty accurate compared to, like, I would say sadly those kind of K dramas or the kind of Chinese dramas that we see, because I realized that a lot of Chinese dramas, you know how when you kind of like want to shock the patient and then you're like rubbing it against yourself, but apparently you're not supposed to rub at all. You're not supposed to let these two things touch each other. So you're supposed to only separate them and then shock the patient, because if you do that, you're going to shock yourself. So I definitely think that there was something that a lot of my batchmates also thought that that was the correct way to do it. But then when we entered and then we asked the doctor, and then the doctor was like, "You're watching the wrong television show." Yeah. But I feel like House is pretty accurate. Yeah.
To close this segment, what are your plans upon graduation?
I feel like I'm still open to my plans, since I'm also a content creator as well. That I'll definitely do my housemanship. And I'm also thinking of maybe going to a district hospital to like do my housemanship, definitely I'll get traumatized by it, but it definitely is worth the experience, I guess, because I'm the kind of person that I feel it's quite easy for me to adapt to new environments. A lot of people do say that if you want to get more hands-on experiences, you can go to district compared to like maybe the city hospitals, because then they will prioritize the medical officers or people of higher ranking to do the job compared to you. So therefore, I'm definitely thinking of going to some district hospital or even going to Borneo for my housemanship. And then afterwards, we'll depend and see whether do I get the chance to go into specialization or not.
Outside of medicine, you also took up student leadership roles. Why did you decide to take on these positions?
I feel like the student leader as AMSU really broadened my horizon because it was a really interesting thing. I actually got approached and to be asked whether do I want to be this AMSU thing. I never thought about it because I thought AMSU was kind of like, oh, if you step foot into AMSU, you're going to be a politician in the future. Like that was something that it goes around and like comes around. I was really interested in doing advocacy and like trying to help for students' welfare. And because my friends were like, oh my god, if you were to join and become like the student leader, especially in faculty medicine, people don't really much care whether are you a politician or not because you're already from faculty of medicine, so it's kind of self-explanatory compared to if you're from faculty of law. So therefore they were like, oh, you don't have to worry too much about the views about whether are you going to be a politician or not. If really what you want to do is just help for student welfare and to just strive for a better faculty, then just go for it. So I think that, oh, okay, like maybe I feel like I do have the traits of becoming a student leader. It was pretty much really scary to me because I didn't take up such a high role before, but I never doubted, and I feel like that was one of the best decisions I ever made because it really opened up a really great pathway for me. Whether is it television shows, whether is it going out and really reaching out to people, community outreach program, I got a lot of opportunities just merely from joining AMSU itself.
As a student representative, what were the biggest issues that medical students have?
For us, it was really based on there was a lot of sectors towards it. So there was definitely whether is it faculty or outside faculty, and then inside faculty we are divided into whether it was it facilities, education, and core curriculum, and also there were also some complaints for the student dormitory as well. But I would say that there are a lot of complaints circulating around parking because in UM the parking was a really huge issue, especially because there are also a lot of hospital staff that also parks at our parking and it takes up the parking spaces. But I do understand because in the hospital itself there are limited amounts of parking. So everyone is like parking here and there, and then it causes a lot of like a ripple effect. Like you can't get enough parking, so you double park, and then it causes a whole jam in Universiti Malaya. And then a lot of students are late from classes, and then you kind of like have a bad impressions towards the lecturers itself. So parking was kind of like one of the issues that we try for. And another issue that happened like for a lot of years was sexual harassment. Guys in general will make silly jokes that they consider it's a joke towards females, and this is what like it will make the females like a bit uncomfortable towards the issue. Yeah.
You were also previously involved in a dancing society. Why did you decide to take on dancing and how does it fit into your daily routine?
So I started dancing during COVID era. So I didn't have the opportunity sadly to go to dance classes for it. But otherwise, I think I picked it up during COVID because you have nothing to do at home, and I started dancing. And then in university itself, because I think one of my seniors told me like first year is kind of like the year that you can chill a bit. So I joined a dance squad in Universiti Malaya known as Asta Dance Squad. Definitely one of the best decisions I made as well. Then I got a lot of opportunities to perform and know people outside of my faculty, and I get a lot of chances to like enhance my dance skills and realize that I kind of like entered the dance community. So at one point, I was also doing a bit of K-pop and joining K-pop competitions as well. And I think that it's really important because it helps and allows me to cope like with the stress. So I'll be like an 8 to 5 of lecture, and then it's like really really stressful, and then I kind of have something to look forward to at night because we will have dance practices, and like dance really allows me to de-stress from the environment, and like having friends that also love dancing as well is really therapeutic.
Importantly, you're also a content creator. How do you manage your student life and this part of your life whereby you have to take on jobs and take on roles and create content?
I think it's because I'm broke and I need money and I need free items. So that kind of motivates me because like you realize that oh I have free items, so I kind of can save money. And then you see all the skincare, and like because initially I really started content creation because I wanted the free products. I did not expect to like eventually build a whole career around it. But then eventually I started to do this kind of content, and then I realized that oh my god, video editing is quite fun for me. Like I quite enjoy video editing. I know that it's definitely hard at one point and it takes a lot of time. It's quite time consuming, but I kind of like the idea. So then I slowly moved on from there, and then I got more opportunities to attend physical events, to know other content creators as well, and it kind of makes a really oddly satisfying loop whereby I go to these kind of events, I know people, and then I get advices for like how to do better content. And like the fact that people know that I'm a medical student, they will also like kind of ask me like to do certain contents related about medical school. Initially I just want to do a bit of fashion here and there, even though I had not the best fashion taste, I would say, begin with. But I started with there, and then like because people asking me of this kind of thing, so I think I slowly started to build my career around there. And because of content creation itself, I actually definitely got more opportunities. So at one point this year, like 2 months back, I actually got invited by Astro Awani to just give my opinions as a University Malaya student. And I asked them like, why would you even invite me in the first place? And they say that, oh, it's actually mainly because we know that you're a content creator. So I definitely feel like content creator eventually opened up a lot of pathways for me, and it led me to have like a really positive cycle whereby it motivates me to provide more content, and eventually I became more consistent with it also.
When you graduate, you will have to do your housemanship and your compulsory service with the government. As a content creator, how do you vet what do you see online to ensure that it remains professional?
I feel like this was really important, and I'm still very conscious to it till this day. For brand endorsement itself, actually, I do get certain alcoholic brands. Yeah, I get alcoholic brands, I get vapes, I get clubbings, this kind of brand endorsement opportunities. But of course, I'll turn them down because I was thinking in my head, like, I'm going to be a future doctor. Let's just not ruin my reputation so early on in life. And then I think the second thing that I try to learn about is that I would also like chat GPT, like what kind of information, and then kind of think through and tell my friends about it. Like, so I want to create this content. What are the controversial things that they may happen? And then I will try my best not to touch on about the 3 R's, like the sensitive things that we're not supposed to touch. And I think overall that's about it. But for me right now, I think that my safe way into content creation is to just provide tips and tricks on how to improve life in general instead of talking about controversial stuff and then like stepping foot into the controversy things, because I feel like that's not part of like what I could do and what I could handle if things go wrong.
Hypothetically speaking, in 5 years down the road, you make it big as a content creator and you will earn much more as a content creator than you would as a junior doctor. Would you consider going full time as a content creator?
I would say it depends where life takes me, but definitely I feel like at one point I was trying to do content creation fully on long content creation because I thought of that pathway. So I tried to do like 2 months of content creations only on content creation itself, and then I realized that it's not really fulfilling to me. I felt really empty, and I felt like this is not really what I want in life. And therefore, I think that maybe in the near future, even though my content creation does have like a better achievement compared to my actual medical doctor work, I will still try to integrate medical into my content. But then again, if I want to integrate medical and medicine into my content creation, it means I have to have credibility. I don't think people will really much want to listen to me if I'm not already a practicing doctor. Therefore, I think that that's really important for me to still take care of my image as a doctor and a medical school doctor, and to really still do my job as a doctor as well before actually going to content. Because how different am I compared to other content creators if I'm only a doctor that just quit medical school just to enter content creation? Then my credibility is kind of like gone. Yeah.
Can you please describe your journey Lepas Sekolah in 3 words?
Passion, grit, discipline. I'm Jelyn, and this is my journey Lepas Sekolah.